Hello, my name is Verity-Belle Atkinson, and today I will be discussing how to approach Mozart's Exsultate Jubilate for the first time. How do I sing it? Now, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's scintillating motet, Exsultate Jubilate, is often defined as one of his foremost compositions, encapsulating the young composer's virtuotic, elegant yet exuberant style. As stated by Robbins, the motet has justifiably remained one of his most popular works, and has and will continue to be a glittering showcase for generations of sopranos. Mozart composed the condensed three-movement motet in 1773, when he was still in his teens, with revisions of the instrumentation and text following in 1779. The brilliant motet was his final sacred work, written prior to leaving for Salzburg to complete the last of 3 concert tours. Mozart wrote Exsultate Jubilate expressly for gifted Italian castrato Rossini, who he had seen perform the leading role in his opera Lucio Silla a year prior, in 1773. Rossini performed this exuberant motet on January the 17th, 1773, in the Church of the Theodin, showcasing his uniquely powerful and lyrical voice. But, obviously, in modern times, the piece has been adopted for female soprano. As seen in the original score here, the Exsultate Jubilate motet is written for solo soprano voice and chamber orchestra. The orchestra consists of 2 oboes, 2 horns, a bassoon, strings, and an organ. The text is in Latin and it's taken from the proper of the Mass. The form of this motet is a 3-movement sonata consisting of an allegro andante allegro, showcasing distinct influences by Johann Christian Bach, utilising the Italian style of composition. When approaching the piece for the first time, in order to perform the piece with stylistic integrity, I must identify complex stylistic issues, showing my awareness and understanding of Western performance practice. And then I will observe how performers of the past and today achieve a result that replicates or achieves a positive outcome as intended by Mozart. This, in turn, will hopefully aid me as a performer to produce a stylistically aware performance whilst still showcasing my intention and artistic interpretation. Firstly, I will discuss how to approach coloratura in relation to tempo. An immediate challenge in the Alleluia movement is the long extended coloratura and run passages, as seen in the score here. Whilst chromatic and harmonic interchanging runs are already complex to learn and perform, the added challenge to maintain a steady and healthy allegro tempo marking in both the first and final movements of the motet raise issues of breathing, phrasing, and stylistic execution of the florid passages. Whilst we must breathe to sing, it's often difficult to find successful places for breaths, when, for instance, seen in the previous example, there are constant quavers throughout a section. I raise the question, do we simply miss out these notes in order to maintain a steady beat? Do we take breaths and sing each note written by the composer, interrupting flow? Or should the piece not be sung until we have mastered our breath technique to the extent that we do not need the breath during the complex passages? In her 1902 book, soprano Lehmann stated, "In the coloratura passages of Mozart arias, I chose significant points for breathing and when to break off of phrases. If a singer is skillful enough, they can impart a certain expression of feeling to even the most superficial phrases and coloratura passages." In this first musical extract, Christine Schaeffer opts to take a short, snatched breath in between a phrase in order to get to the end of the section. Now, this results in her missing some notes of the coloratura passage and ultimately breaking her legato line. However, she maintains the tempo set by the composer. Julia Bartoli opts for a much faster overall tempo to accommodate the phrase length, allowing her to not need to breathe. However, she continually modifies her vowel shape in order to keep up with the pace of the piece, presenting a more baroque style of coloratura in contrast to the operatic style of composition. Whilst it isn't clear which option provides a more satisfactory result, in his own words, Mozart's view of tempo markings is much freer in comparison to how we treat them today. He stated, "Each tempo has a feeling. Allegro is characterized as merry. The individual musician retains a certain freedom. Any tempo can be artistically valued. Therefore, poor intonation and snatched breaths can be avoided. When performing this piece, I believe it would be much more beneficial to sing the piece at a slower tempo, clearly enabling me to reach the ends of musical phrases, whilst obviously maintaining the composer's merry intention in the allegro movements." Next, I hope to tackle how to approach adding ornamentation and cadenzas to the motet. The second complexity of learning and performing Exsultate Jubilate is employing traditional performance practices regarding ornamentation and cadenza. Whilst in common copies of the score, editors add ornamental suggestions, often taken and then embellished from the composer's other works, in my Breitkopf score, Riedel suggests a cadenza oriented from the aria Assai a morir from the aforementioned opera Lucio Silla. In this 1996 edition, seen on the screen, the editor suggests an ornament only once, stating additional ornaments would be perfectly in tune with the performance practice of this period. However, not absolutely necessary due to the highly expressive and dynamic melodies. In contrast, initially, Neumann discusses Mozart's liberalisation, freedom and flexible view towards ornamenting his own work. Schrock is in compliance, stating, "Extemporaneous ornamentation was a significant phenomenon in and throughout the duration of the classical era. Performers such as Castrato, Rauzzini would improvise complex cadenza passages, offering inexplicable excitement for audiences watching spontaneous music making in live performance. Neumann's cadenza pedagogy to achieve this fluidity and freedom when performing, ironically, follows quite a strict and rigid structure. An embellishment is either at the end of a phrase or linking a new theme. The cadenza, whether terminal or transitional, should be short, not exceeding one breath. Preferably, it should not repeat words and it definitely should not introduce new ones. And it should be in character." Whilst clearly in academia there is much debate concerning Western tradition and how a piece should be altered or accentuated with ornamental flourishes, we also see huge contrast in how sopranos opt to perform the piece. Nowadays, cadenza sections are rarely improvised and much more commonly meticulously planned and prepared. It's also highly likely that performers copy ornamentation and cadenza that they or their teachers have heard or sung before. I, myself, have often fallen victim to simply producing a carbon copy of a recording I've heard on Spotify, or simply adding in an ornament suggested by my vocal teacher as it's the done thing. However, I ask the question, are these well-known flourishes commonly used because of their artistic brilliance, or simply because they are assumed Western classical tradition of how it has been done, how it should be done, and how it will always be done? In this first extract, René Fleming sings a cadenza to end the first allegro movement. To completely contrast Neumann's pedagogy of how to successfully sing a cadenza, the tempo immediately slows. Fleming breathes multiple times and repeats words heard previously in the movement. Whilst Fleming contradicts all academic and respected classical tradition, I don't think it's possible to argue with her ability to showcase virtuosity and fluidity. Audience members are hugely engaged and appear to be amazed by her vocal performance. In turn, she is achieving her goal as a performer, to entertain. In this final clip, Regula Müllemann performs the same cadenza, but in a hugely more traditional style. Whilst she repeats some words, the cadenza is completed in one breath and retains the energy and tempo of the first movement. Again, I believe that Müllemann is successful in communicating with an audience and showcasing a flourish. However, I feel it could be argued that there is less meaning or need for this cadenza. Perhaps its short length translates to a rushed feel of something that just needed to be added in because it's the done thing. In truth, I am unsure whether there should be set rules to create the perfect virtuotic flourish. I feel it's in Mozart's letters where we comprehend his meaning of musicianship, gusto and expression. It was of his belief that we have the right to resort to our musical judgment to decide what makes the best sense in a particular circumstance. Mozart composed his music to be performed, to make audiences enjoy and emote. Furthermore, with time, needs of audiences change and grow, and expectations of certain artists alter hugely. As a performer, I know it's our job to entertain and capture an audience using the music of the composer as a toolkit. We must be true to the music, but also utilise our individuality to shape our performance to create a fully informed interpretation. Perhaps it's the combination of an awareness of classical Western tradition and our intentions as a performer that creates a well-rounded and successful performance. Thank you.